I recently had the benefit of all my Libby holds coming in at once, and realized like 3 or 4 of them were novellas. So I figured to collect a few more, see how many we can read in 7 days, and hopefully enjoy some good stories. So I have a collection of ebooks, physical books, and audiobooks. And the first one is A Fig for All the Devils by C.S. Fritz. I technically started this yesterday to make sure it was something I actually liked. So I got some cleaning around the house to do. Let's put in the audiobook and do that. Tried to film in your house and realized that everywhere is terrible lighting? I realized I didn't even attempt to tell you what this book was about. So Sunny's father kills himself, and Sunny is a teenage boy in the 80s, and when he visits his father in the hospital, he experiences the kind of remnants of death as a person, and is later on visited by death, who is asking Sunny to take his job and become the new Grim Reaper. There's something really fun about the audiobook in that it is very obviously independently made. Like, I feel like you can really visualize the moments where the author is giving direction to the narrator. He's full-on voice acting. He's not just reading it. So that's really charming. Oh, also, the narrator talks in the very beginning of how this is kind of for him like a fictionalized memoir, where some of these things did happen to him, just sprinkling in the fact that he was also asked to become the Grim Reaper. You'll have to forgive me. I decided to join my dog on the floor because I finished. So I can do this so I don't have a horrible light on my face. The story was interesting. The writing itself was not. But it wasn't bad. It was just a little whatever. But otherwise, a pretty good start to the week. I don't know if it's a 4 or 4.5. I'll have to think about it. But I'll see you tomorrow. Am I in focus, actually? That's the question. So, yesterday, not today, apologies. Yesterday I read Below by Laurel Hightower. Laurel? Yes. I did it for a read with me, so that took all evening, and I didn't exactly want to film afterwards. So, this is a book that Storygraph was convinced I would like because it has suggested it to me many times. But every time it popped up, I was like, ooh, Mothman. And not long ago, the Fallout 76 Mothman Equinox was happening, so I was like, ooh, Mothman. So I bought it because it's not available at my library because it's small enough. Fair enough. Below is about Addie, who was recently divorced, and she has a near-miss car accident on the mountains of West Virginia. Later, while she's at a rest stop recuperating, a truck driver who witnessed the crash kind of comes up to her as a perfect gentleman, making sure she's okay. When they are later driving up the mountain, kind of back to back, talking over CB radio, he sees something in the road and drives off the cliff, and so Addie goes after to help him. Now, for one, I do have to say, while it looks like Mothman, walks, talks, and acts like Mothman, I would not read this going into being like, ooh, a Mothman horror, like I did. Expectations need to be set, and this is not Mothman. I think Hightower just kind of saw the lore of a giant moth thing and took that and ran and did whatever she wanted with it, which is fine. The inspiration's there, but it's not a Mothman horror book. My biggest complaint with the book is that I felt like Hightower kept telling me, you know, Addie is this quiet person. Or maybe Addie kept thinking about that for herself. That she's a pushover and she's weak and vulnerable and all this stuff. Where throughout the entire book, like, she's very obviously the strong woman, and she doesn't take shit. The only time she does is, understandably, right after the car accident. And even at the end of the book, when she's kind of like, wow, who's this new person? Character development is amazing. It's like, no, as a reader, I don't feel like anything's changed. I would believe the excuse that it's because we're experiencing this through Addie's perspective. So maybe it was just Addie's confidence wasn't there and she was kind of projecting too much of being like, ooh, I'm weak, even though she never is. But if that's the case, I don't totally believe the writing did that very successfully. It felt more like the book was telling but showing two different characters. If you want a short winter horror, then this could be an option. So I finished that this morning, and so I picked up Magma by Thora Hordifdottir. Did I say that okay? Is an Icelandic author. When I was collecting books, I realized I didn't have any translated works. So I found this one, finished this in almost one sitting. I wouldn't suggest that because it's a fucking heavy book. It is about a woman, a young woman, who is in this relationship with an emotional and physical abuser. And it's kind of told in mini essays / diary entries, how they met in first impressions and the beginning of their relationship and those early issues to the end where she, how do I say this without just giving it away? Through their relationship. It's one of those books you read for a connection to the character or to get insight to this kind of relationship. The thought process and gaining understanding for someone who has been or is in that kind of relationship. And for that, it's fantastic. It takes a while to get into, you know, her actually talking positively about him. And we are halfway into the book before there's any remote affection actually expressed between them. Lily talks about being, you know, a fairly promiscuous woman and, like, not really seeing sex originally as, like, before this man. She never saw sex as something that was strictly for relationships or strictly for love or anything like that. She seems fairly independent. So it's interesting in a somewhat negative way, for me, that she crumbles so quickly for this man. And part of that I want to say is because I've been lucky enough to never be in that kind of situation before. So I obviously can't relate firsthand experience to that kind of shift that you have towards yourself and towards others. It doesn't feel like there was any reason for her to just give in to this negativity so easily. That's my only complaint. It feels minor because otherwise it was successful. I don't know, what can I say? It was beautiful. Now, because I finished Magma very quickly, I started on Mutual Aid. Oh, I don't know who this is by. Now, I know many creators talk about Libro FM, but if you don't know, I think once a year, at least, they'll have book sales of, where it's just free. It's just free 99. Last year they did this for romance, and I got the audiobook for Emma by Jane Austen, and they recently did the same thing for fantasy. Now, Mutual Aid, neither of those things, but, I was gonna look up the author. Mutual Aid by Dean Spade, neither fantasy nor romance, but Libro FM did give it away for free in support of the anti-ICE marches. And I think it counts as a novella, but I figured I'd start that. Might as well. I had it, and it works for the theme. I won't be finishing it or reviewing it for this video, just an FYI. But I also kind of wanted to give a shout out to Libro because I do really like them. And again, free 99, but Mutual Aid, Building Solidarity During This Crisis and the Next, is an educational book. It is not written for entertainment, just so that is clear. And it starts off with examples of, you know, community support coming together when the government is failing us. And it gives examples and things you can do and other foibles other people have run into and how to work with that for your possible community if you want to be a part of that. It's not free anymore. It was free for a good day. But I want to talk about that and give it a shout out. So, I'm looking at my list of books. Tomorrow, I do have to read, actually, Your Shadow Half Remains, because I borrowed this originally from my last reading vlog, and I gotta return it. So, we'll read this tomorrow and touch base then. Alright, lady gents of the bents, finished this for a read with me and decided to throw on some makeup so I could update you. And this is the weakest of the bunch so far, to put it lightly. So this is about a pandemic started by eye contact or seeing someone else's eyes. And the virus or whatever it is makes you unexplainably violent. So our main character, Riley, is willfully ignorant to the development of the pandemic. We start off with her throwing her phone into the ocean because she doesn't want, or the lake, because she doesn't want anything to do with this anymore. Not that she explicitly wants it to go back to normal, but that she just wants this to be normal, and so an active development of it denormalizes that. Denormalize? Makes it abnormal. There, that's the word. And that, I think, is the main theming of the book. That willful ignorance does more harm than good. I did also, I'm pretty sure, say yesterday that I almost read this for my gay reading vlog, and thank fucking God I didn't, because this may be a hot take, because I don't see anyone else talking about it, but there's nothing queer, gay, not heteronormative, like, I'm very confused. Riley meets Ellis, who is not given a gender, I'm pretty sure. I've seen reviews refer to Ellis as he, she, they. In the book, they might be referred to as they. I don't think so. Like, I don't think they're even, like, a gender. I think they're just up to interpretation, like one of those kinds of things. It's for you to project whatever gender you want onto it, and I guess that makes it queer? I wouldn't say so, because even if Ellis was, you know, she, her, there's some chemistry, kind of, but not enough to be gay. Like, not enough for this to be a sapphic horror. Setting proper expectations in your marketing is really important. And everyone said that this was marketed as Last of Us meets Bird Box, whatever. That's not my point. My point is the fact that it is categorized as queer horror. And I feel like the idiot. There's no, but otherwise, still not good. It was just Riley being like, holy shit, another person. Do I trust them? Do I trust myself? And then an open ending. The ending is open for interpretation, meaning that I don't think it has interpretation. I don't think it has an actual meaning. I think it just wants you to insert whatever you want. I don't know if that's better or worse, because David Lynch does that, right? Where the ending is for you to decide. That what it means is what you want it to mean. But I don't think that's what this was doing. I know a lot of people also related to this because of COVID, naturally. But for me, it felt flat. I think throughout COVID, there were a lot more waves of emotion. Whereas in this, Riley is just constantly depressed. And I understand for some people, all of COVID was all depression, but for me that was not relatable. So it is finally getting not above freezing, but closer to freezing. It's more like a low of -10 Celsius than it is an average of -10, which is apparently perfect weather to go to Michael's. I need to get some embroidery floss. As you saw yesterday, I started sewing up some pants that I want to decorate. So I need to get some floss, do some shopping, and we'll listen to my audiobook in the meantime. I'm a little less than halfway, but I'm really enjoying it. So I started reading, did I even say? The River Has Roots. I started reading it, or I added it to my TBR after finishing This Is How You Lose the Time War, and it reads the exact same way, in a positive light. At least if you liked the book in a positive light. It takes a minute to get used to what the fuck you're reading and understanding what you're reading, but I'm enjoying it. It's a very sweet story about two sisters who don't exactly understand each other's point of views. It's way more fantasy, high fantasy, I would say. Not as much for my cup of tea, but I'm enjoying it. So let's see if I can finish it. A surprisingly quick trip out and a surprisingly quick book. It sounded like it was wrapping up and then the audiobook had a whole hour left and I was confused, but that whole extra hour is a short story preview for their next short story collection. So that's done. The way I can describe it is it's fiction written as if it was poetry. I believe grammar is like the type of magic when translating. Getting grammar is like matter, possibly, and so when translating the grammar, you're exchanging the matter. That's how I'm gonna choose to very poorly explain it. I can see this being one of those audiobooks that everyone is like, ooh, fuck yeah, listen to the audiobook. I'm not into theatrics when it comes to audiobooks, but if you are, then yeah, listen to the audiobook. It you know, it has more of a production than just reading the text. I'm not into that because I want to be reading the book. I don't want to feel like I'm listening to a podcast. But yeah, personal preferences. Alright, so it was a great time. A beautiful story about sisterhood. Next on the docket was going to be Becky Chambers. But I don't really want to read two literary fiction stories back to back. So I got a few more horrors to choose from. And we'll see what I end up picking. It's been a couple of days, but I've read a couple of books. I just didn't vlog much of it because I've been hanging out with the husband and playing video games. But I'm excited. So first, I read And Then I Woke Up by Malcolm Devlin. By Malcolm Devlin. Why is this so difficult? An Australian author, I believe. Now, especially reading this a few days after Your Shadow Half Remains, it does that book a significant disservice because this is a much better pandemic book. This is so much better. Spencer's telling us his story in this kind of rehabilitation house. We learn that there's a pandemic outside where people become violent, and despite being cured, he is staying in the, correction house. Layla's one of the newer residents that convinces him to go out with her because she sees her old friends on the TV and thinks that she can bring at least the leader of them back to be cured. Now, if you're like me and want to know as little about a book as possible before going in, that's kind of it. But other than that, I loved this book. I loved it so much. I ate it up in one sitting and immediately went to see where I can order it from to have a physical copy. It's so explicit with its messaging that I think it's more of an allegory than anything. People don't love this book because of its lack of subtlety, but I mean, that's kind of like saying Animal Farm lacks subtlety. Like, it's not trying to be subtle. It's a direct, almost one-to-one comparison. And I love that about this. I love that it was so in your face about it. I loved how it did it and how much you feel for these characters, and it was such a sleeper hit for me. I didn't expect to enjoy this so much, and I'm so glad that I was able to, you know, have the time to blitz through it in one sitting. It was a blast. After that, I read Clive Barker's The Hellhound Heart. This is about Frank, who is a proudly hedonistic man. He has this puzzle box that he's told will summon unknown pleasure. And what he fails to consider is that unknown pleasures could be unearthly pleasures. And it doesn't explicitly mean that the pleasure is for him. And thus the legend of the Cenobites is born, and Frank finds himself trapped until a year later his family comes to where he just so happened to last be, and he finds himself a possible escape route out of the Cenobites' clutches. Now, being a book that is kind of a part of the horror canon, it's hard to separate it from its cultural zeitgeist and everything that you know about it and see it as this brand new thing like it was at the time, rather than something that everyone has referenced and, you know, remixed to fit their own ways. So for me, the saving grace here is Clive Barker's writing. He is obviously an author that just fucking loves writing. He just has such rock solid descriptions. But it's one of those stories that's about horrible people doing horrible things, and is very explicitly about lust and obsession. So it's a weird one, but I definitely want to read more from him. I don't know if I want to finish... Is the Scarlet Gospel, I think, is the next in the series? I don't know how much I care, and I think this was a good first step as an introduction. Wait, I've read one of his scripts. The History of the Devil. I read that. I like his writing, I think. I think how fucked up his stories are fun. Was that a sentence? I like how messed up his stories are. They're just so not reader friendly. So, that is how many books so far? I read 8 books for this video. I think that's gonna be it, because I'm kind of tired of novellas. I need a break. Let's rate, rank, and review these books, and talk about them in a little more detail of who I think these books might be for, and who might like them, and if you might like them. First off, mutual aid, once again, is, I think, strictly for educational purposes, but if you're looking to support your community more actively, if you see where other authorities and groups are failing and you want to help support that, this is a good tool to have to kind of set you off and give you some guidelines of how to do what you want to do. I'm not going to rate it because, for one, I didn't finish it. I don't think I'm going to. It's just not for me where I am at this very moment. Your Shadow Half Remains by Sunny Moraine. It's a thriller. Is it a thriller? No. It's a horror dystopian pandemic book. It is not queer. If you're looking for something at least that's explicitly queer, then it's not it, I feel. It's about alienation, humanity, self-destruction. In my opinion, I think the story is a little too vague and too open-ended to allow the reader to come to their own conclusions, because there's very few breadcrumbs to actually follow. I think you're kind of making up the story yourself. If you need more guidance, if you want to be told what the story is about, I wouldn't say it's for you. The saving grace of this is how relatable the main character is to some people. During the pandemic, I very happily graduated college in my basement apartment and played video games for 2 months and got really into Dragon Age and got a retail job that I enjoyed the people I was with. For me, it worked out. I made the best of the moment. I wasn't really depressed through it. I learned how to be comfortable with being by myself and being my own entertainment. And if you were not able to do that, at least not as easily, then you might be able to relate to the main character better than I did. Next, I'm ranking Below by Laurel Hightower, also at a 2.5 stars. And the issue is I don't know who to suggest this to. I wouldn't say it's a horror. It does have its moments of spooks and a little bit of body horror pieced throughout, but I think it's far more a thriller than anything. If you want a book that's explicitly about Mothman, then it's not for you. It does have theming of like female rage and womanhood and, you know, a little bit of like surviving the abuse of your past. But for me, the main antagonist of the book, the more I thought about it, just didn't really make sense. Learning its motives just doesn't align with the action, and I kind of feel the same way about the main character as well. If you want a book that eases you into the horror, you know, is an easy read, this could be for you. It is a winter setting as well if you're looking for that. I really like winter horror books. I think it's a good setting. And above that is A Fig for All the Devils by C.S. Fritz, and I'm giving it 4 stars, which means I think, over half the books in this vlog are 4 and up. That's kind of wild. This is a little more fairy tale folklore centric of a horror, very heavy on the themes of forgiveness and grief. This feels a little more new adult, maybe young adult. Yes, because the main character is a teenager, but also because the writing, again, is so simple. It's not hard to follow. Something I do like about this is that the themes of grief aren't too triggering, I would say. I really relate to this character because, you know, his dad dies and he flips between these thoughts of, oh, like my dad's just out of town, he's not really dead, and when he does accept it, he's severely depressed and has to work through that and doesn't have a support system that he needs. You know, he finds his support system in the Grim Reaper. It felt like a good introduction to grief. Something I did also really like about this book is that there is Christian content, and he gets into this town and the priest's daughter is the hot lady and whatever. But the book doesn't end with, you know, and then my mom and I went to church every Sunday and our souls were saved or anything like that. It's just kind of there. These characters are, you know, the priest and the priest's daughter. I didn't feel like it was trying to push a message of religion, and I can really respect that. So 4 stars for C.S. Fritz. I don't think I'll read him again, but congrats. The River Has Roots. The River Has Roots by El-Mohtar. I'm also giving 4 stars. This is a reverse of Fritz, where her writing is so, it's poetry, but for fiction. It's fantastic. It's so beautiful. If you read This Is How You Lose a Time War, you will love this book. If you didn't like that book, you probably won't like this book. Unless your issue was that it was sci-fi. Because if you're into fantasy, this is for you. That's the exact reason for me why it's 4 stars and not 5. I'm not a heavy fantasy reader. This is very high fantasy. I really admire everything she's done with the fantasy elements for this and how she talks about grammar and conjugating and translating the language. Oh my god, it's so pretty. Another 4 star I'm giving is to Clive Barker's Hellhound Heart. If you know I can't imagine you know that you like Clive Barker and haven't read this. I think I'm the outlier in that sense. But if you haven't read this and you do like Clive Barker, then easy. If you haven't read Clive Barker, I speak with no authority, having read 3 of his books. One of them was a young adult that is more like a middle grade. It's aberrant, and I hated it because I'm not a middle schooler, and I only read it because I thought it was interesting. The fact that the same man who wrote The History of the Devil wrote a child's book. But if you're looking for body horror and a little bit of space horror, then Clive Barker is a classic. And I've decided to give Magma by Thora Leaf de Tour 4.5. Just because of my slight believability issues. A contemporary, literary, challenging book about the cycles of abuse. I wouldn't say surviving as a theme. It's a difficult book about an abusive relationship in every way. If you can read this, being aware of its, content, then I definitely would suggest it. The writing is so conversational and it's very easy to understand. It was really beautiful. And lastly, my only 5-star, but an easy 5-star. Halfway through, I was like, this is it. And then I Woke Up by Malcolm Devlin, who I will be buying a physical copy of this. I love it. The cover's beautiful. The story is so aggressive. I am so glad I did not know that people were comparing his writing to Myra Grant. Is that how you say it? I'm glad I didn't know that, because I do not like her writing. And to be fair, it's being compared to them and Stephen Graham Jones, who I haven't read, but not liking one, but liking the other. I'm significantly more inclined to. If you've read this book, and you've read Maya Grant books, please let me know if you can see her writing in this. But that's it. I definitely call this a success. Thank you for joining me in this blitz of 8 novellas in about a week. I had a lot of fun, but I'm excited to sink my teeth into longer books and relish those worlds even longer. If you liked the video, please like the video. And if you want more like this, please consider subscribing. Until next time, I guess I'll see you next time.